Let me start by saying something bold. Most people will never be wealthy. Not because they can't, but because they don't think like the wealthy. You see, success leaves clues, but so does failure. And 97% of people are busy ignoring the clues that could change everything. Now, the question is simple. Why do 97% stay broke? It's not the economy. It's not the government. It's not their boss. It's their philosophy. It's how they think. Because how you think determines how you act, and how you act determines what you get. Let me tell you what the 97% do. They trade time for money and think they're making progress. They spend more than they earn and call it living. They buy things to impress people they don't even like. They say, "I can't afford that," and then stop thinking. They wait for someone to rescue them. They live on default, not design. Your financial reality is a direct reflection of your internal beliefs and thoughts. Most people think that money problems are caused by the economy, low paying jobs, or lack of opportunities, but the truth is, those are only symptoms. The real cause lies in how you think. If your mindset is rooted in fear, limitation, and scarcity, then your decisions will follow that same pattern. You'll hesitate to take chances, avoid investing in yourself, and settle for less than you deserve. It's not because you're incapable, it's because your thinking has created a ceiling that holds you back. This is what keeps 97% of people stuck. They wake up every day with the same thoughts, make the same choices, and repeat the same cycle. Nothing changes because their thinking hasn't changed. On the other hand, the 3% who build wealth don't just think differently. They think deliberately. They choose thoughts that support growth, abundance, and possibility. They believe in their ability to create value, solve problems, and improve their lives through consistent effort and learning. This mindset pushes them to take action when others freeze. It drives them to read books, seek mentors, and develop the habits that eventually lead to financial freedom. The wealthy don't start with more money. They start with more awareness. They know that your outer world is a mirror of your inner world. If you want more money, you first need better thoughts. Thoughts of responsibility. Thoughts of opportunity. Thoughts that align with the life you want, not the life you're trying to escape. That's the foundation of wealth, and it's built one thought at a time. Until you change your mindset, you'll never change your results. But the moment you do, everything around you begins to shift, and that's when transformation becomes possible. The wealthy understand a fundamental principle that most people overlook. Money is a result of value, not time. While the majority spend their lives trading hours for paychecks, the 3% focus on multiplying their value. They know that time is a limited resource. Everyone has 24 hours, but value can be created, scaled, and leveraged. Instead of asking, "How much will I get paid per hour?" they ask, "How can I solve bigger problems? How can I serve more people? How can I increase what I bring to the marketplace?" This shift in thinking leads to wealth because the marketplace pays for value, not effort alone. Those who remain broke often believe that working harder or longer will bring success. But hard work without strategic thinking leads to exhaustion, not abundance. The wealthy aren't always the ones who hustle the most. They're the ones who think differently. They build systems, invest in assets, create businesses, and leverage skills that pay over and over again, even when they're not actively working. They remove themselves from the equation by building something bigger than themselves. That's how they break free from the time for money trap. This difference in approach is why some people can make more in a single week than others do in a year. It's not magic, it's mindset. The wealthy look at time as something to protect, not spend. They delegate, automate, and streamline. They invest time upfront in building things that work for them later. The 97% sell time, the 3% buy freedom. Until you shift from chasing hourly wages to creating lasting value, you'll remain stuck on the same financial treadmill. Wealth is not just about working harder, it's about working smarter and creating something that pays you back, long after the work is done. Most people unknowingly live with a scarcity mindset, and that mindset silently rules their financial choices. They believe there's never enough money, time, or opportunity. This belief keeps them locked into fear and limitation. Instead of asking how they can create or attract more, they constantly focus on what they lack. They say things like, "I can't afford that," "I'm just not good with money," or "people like me don't get rich." These statements become internal scripts that shape their behavior. And because they believe money is hard to get, they either hoard it in fear or spend it recklessly to feel some short-lived control, the scarcity mind. It also convinces people to settle. It tells them to play it safe, avoid risk, and stick with what's familiar, even if that familiarity is keeping them broke. They take jobs they hate, avoid starting businesses, and talk themselves out of ideas that could change their lives. Not because they lack talent, but because they're trained to think small. Their world becomes a cycle of survival instead of growth. They react instead of create. They wait instead of build, and year after year, nothing really improves. This is how the 97% live, not because they want to, but because no one ever taught them to think differently. They inherited limiting beliefs from their environment, their upbringing, and their own past failures. They look at money as a struggle, not as a tool. But that mindset is a trap. It blinds them to opportunities that are right in front of them. Until the scarcity lens is removed, they'll continue to see the world through fear. Real change begins when you stop thinking like there's never enough, and start believing that there's more than enough for those who are willing to grow, give, and go after it. The wealthy understand a fundamental principle that most people overlook. Money is a result of value, not time. While the majority spend their lives trading hours for paychecks, the 3% focus on multiplying their value. They know that time is a limited resource. Everyone has 24 hours, but value can be created, scaled, and leveraged. Instead of asking, "How much will I get paid per hour?" they ask, "How can I solve bigger problems? How can I serve more people? How can I increase what I bring to the marketplace?" This shift in thinking leads to wealth because the marketplace pays for value, not effort alone. Those who remain broke often believe that working harder or longer will bring success. But hard work without strategic thinking leads to exhaustion, not abundance. The wealthy aren't always the ones who hustle the most. They're the ones who think differently. They build systems, invest in assets, create businesses, and leverage skills that pay over and over again, even when they're not actively working. They remove themselves from the equation by building something bigger than themselves. That's how they break free from the time for money trap. This difference in approach is why some people can make more in a single week than others do in a year. It's not magic, it's mindset. The wealthy look at time as something to protect, not spend. They delegate, automate, and streamline. They invest time upfront in building things that work for them later. The 97% sell time, the 3% buy freedom. Until you shift from chasing hourly wages to creating lasting value, you'll remain stuck on the same financial treadmill. Wealth is not just about working harder, it's about working smarter and creating something that pays you back, long after the work is done. One of the most powerful differences between the wealthy and those who remain broke lies in how they manage their money on a daily basis. The wealthy practice financial discipline. They don't spend emotionally or impulsively. Instead, they make intentional decisions with their money that are aligned with long-term goals. They understand the importance of budgeting, saving, and investing, even when it's not easy. Every dollar has a purpose, and that purpose is tied to freedom, not fleeting pleasure. In contrast, many people live paycheck to paycheck, not because they don't earn enough, but because they don't control where their money goes. They spend to feel good in the moment, not realizing that these small choices compound into a life of financial stress. The disciplined individual chooses to delay gratification. Instead of buying the latest phone or upgrading their car to impress others, they invest that money in assets that grow. They think in terms of returns, not rewards. They avoid unnecessary debt, track their spending, and build habits that reinforce stability. This isn't about being cheap, it's about being smart. Financial freedom doesn't come from how much you earn. It comes from how well you manage what you have. The truth is, wealth begins with self-control. Discipline is the silent partner in every success story. It shows up when no one's watching, when you choose to save instead of spend, when you invest in your future instead of indulging your impulses. It's not glamorous, but it's effective. The broke mindset looks for shortcuts and quick fixes. The wealthy mindset plays the long game, and in that game, discipline isn't optional, it's essential. Those who master it create a life of options and abundance. Those who avoid it stay in a cycle of scarcity, always chasing and never arriving. Wealth begins with responsibility. The moment you decide that your life is up to you, not your job, not your background, not the government, you take the first step toward financial transformation. The 3% understand this deeply. They don't waste time blaming external circumstances. If they fail, they ask, what did I miss? What can I learn? How do I grow? This mindset of ownership allows them to make changes, improve their strategies, and pivot when needed. The 97%, however, often fall into the trap of blame. They blame the system, the boss, the economy, or even their parents. While some of those factors may have played a role, constantly blaming others gives away all your power. Taking responsibility doesn't mean everything is your fault. It means you have the power to shape your response and direction. That shift is everything. It moves you from being a victim of life to being a creator of your future. The wealthy didn't arrive by luck. They arrived by taking control of their thoughts, their habits, their time, and their money. When things go wrong, they don't look for excuses. They look for answers. They reflect, adjust, and move forward with intention. This level of responsibility is rare, which is why wealth is rare. It's easier to complain than to change. It's easier to wish than to work. But wishes don't build wealth. Ownership does. The more responsibility you take, the more powerful you become. You stop waiting for something to happen and start making things happen. That's the real difference between the 3% and the 97%. The wealthy don't wait for opportunity. They prepare for it. They don't hope for success. They create it. And it all begins with one decision: to take full responsibility for the life you want. The environment you place yourself in and the habits you repeat daily play a major role in determining your financial future. The 3% understand that success is not an accident. It's a system built through intentional surroundings and consistent actions. They surround themselves with driven, growth-minded individuals who push them to think bigger, act smarter, and never settle. They know that you become like the people you spend the most time with. If you're constantly around negativity, excuses, and small thinking, it's almost impossible to rise above it. That's why they choose mentors, books, communities, and conversations that challenge them to grow and evolve. But it doesn't stop there. The 3% also build habits that align with wealth building. They read daily, track their goals, review their finances, invest in personal development, and stay disciplined with their time. These small, consistent actions may not seem glamorous, but they compound over time into massive results. They treat every day as an opportunity to improve, physically, mentally, and financially. That consistency is what separates them from the masses. Meanwhile, the 97% often fall into autopilot. They let life happen to them. Their habits are driven by impulse, entertainment, and short-term pleasure. They might want change, but their daily routine doesn't reflect that desire. They wake up late, scroll through social media, spend without thinking, and hope things will somehow get better. But hope without habit leads nowhere. To create a wealthy life, you have to construct an environment that supports your vision and develop habits that move you forward. Your surroundings and routines are either lifting you up or holding you back. The wealthy choose both carefully, knowing that these choices shape their future. Change your environment, change your habits, and you will change your financial destiny.